Well, hello everyone. My name is Dr. Marshall and welcome to MG4800, Managing Innovation and Change. I'll be your professor for the next several months, and today we're going to begin with Chapter 1 and just give a brief introduction to the concepts that we're going to be looking at over these next several months. But first, I just want to remind you to make sure you are familiar with the syllabus. There may be changes to it as we go along, but for the most part, we're going to try to stay as true to the syllabus as possible. The main thing is to remember for you online students that you need to respond 3 times per week, not necessarily Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, but that you respond to the 3 forums each week and not do it all at once. Now, I'm going to separate these forums out, and I want you, spread them out. What I mean by that is that I want you to respond over the course of 3 days, whether it's Monday, Thursday, Friday, whatever it may be. You may want to do Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. That's fine. But this forum will not only count towards participation, it'll also count towards your attendance. And we have to have 3 days each week to give you the full credit for attendance. Anything other than that is an absence. So let's say, for instance, you responded twice during the week. Then you'll be counted as 1 absence because you didn't respond to one of those forums, and that forum would have counted for a day. So make sure you stay on top of that. Your reading is not going to be cumbersome. You should be able to keep up with that relatively quickly, and as we go along, I'll be posting things and communicating with you if there's anything that changes or is altered from the syllabus. So make sure that you, again, stay in touch with it. Now, the course is Innovation and Change. The book that we're going to be using deals with development, organizational development, and change. We're also going to be including in that book innovation. So don't let the title of the book fool you, and just know that we're going to be looking at all 3 of these elements, not just innovation and change, but also development, because that's an important element of what we're going to be looking at in this course. You have my contact information in the syllabus, so if you need to reach me, by all means do so. The quickest way and probably the most effective way is to just call me on the cell phone, and you have that number there as well. If not, then email me, and I will get back with you as soon as I possibly can. We're going to have a good time, so just keep up with your end of everything we need to have done, and I will do the same. And God bless you, and I look forward to interacting with you online. Well, hello everyone. I'm Dr. Marshall, and this is MG4000. Managing Innovation and Change. Now, as I had mentioned in my introduction, the course that we're going to be taking is a multifaceted course. We're going to be looking, of course, at innovation, and within organization, we're going to be looking at development. And you may ask, why development? Well, in order to be innovative and creative, which is innovation, you need to be able to foster a mindset of creativity. And that doesn't just come sporadically. For organizations to be able to thrive today, they have to have a mindset of creating things that are going to respond to the environment's needs, whether it's the consumer or the world around them. But also, it's more than just responding. If you're responding, then something has already happened. Companies today have to be proactive, which means that they are having to look at possibilities of things that may not exist yet, that the consumer may need or may be needed for the environment. So when we take a look at innovation, we're taking a look at organizational development, which is really the practice of bringing people up in the organization to be able to foster that creativity and leadership. But also, we're going to be looking at change. Now, change is something that many organizations are undergoing now. and have been for the last decade or so. And change can be painful or it can be quite effective and pleasant, depending on the circumstance and how it's handled. So, for instance, with the disease COVID, many organizations have had to rethink the way that they do business. And here at MidAmerica, we have had to venture out into new opportunities and arenas that we haven't really had to worry about in the past. And it has been able to expand our abilities and keep us going. Many organizations are reluctant to change, and unfortunately, many organizations don't survive because of their reluctance to change. So, we're going to be looking at change through the lens of those companies that are thriving as change occurs because they've fostered a environment and a culture of change and creativity. And we're also going to take a look at organizations that have floundered over the years, and why some companies and people are reluctant to change. When we take a look at innovation and change, we're looking at many different disciplines that come together. We're looking at psychology, we're looking at sociology, we're looking at political science. Just as you find in organizational behavior, there is no one type of discipline that can cover the vast array of elements that make up organizational innovation and change. So we're going to be taking a look and considering many of those elements that contribute to this concept in this class, and as we go along, be able to really take a look and appreciate companies today that are innovative and are fostering creativity. Now, of course, if there are any questions, let me know. You have Moodle to come and on the forums you can ask questions. You can contact me, and my syllabus has, as I've said before, my contact information, so make sure you stay up to date on all of that, and you'll be fine. Now, I'm going to be looking at several textbooks. I'm going to be taking a look at your primary textbook, but I'm also going to be taking a look at other literature that will contribute to this course. It won't be a standalone type of situation where it's one book fits all. With all of this, you have to be able to draw from multiple sources, and I'll give you those sources as we go along. But if you have the Cengage textbook that I've indicated in the syllabus, then you should be fine. And let's go ahead then, and let's go and take a look at some of the introductory elements of organizational change and innovation. Now, some of our learning objectives will be to define and describe the practice and study of org development, describe the history and relevance of org development, and distinguish org development. Org is organizational. Distinguish org development and plan change from other forms of organization change. So, from the perspective of this book, we're going to be looking primarily at development and change. And again, I'm going to be using other literature that will cover the innovation side of it and entrepreneurship. So you're going to be getting quite a bit of information within the confines of this course. And of course, I want to encourage you to do some research on your own. You know, part of college is the experience in college is to help equip you to do research. And I want to encourage you to do that. In fact, you're going to be looking at doing some research in this course as you take a look at organizations who are going through change and looking at organizations and people who are innovators. So I want to just go ahead and encourage you now to just take a look at what is out there in the form of change and development and innovation, and be able to grasp just the wide scope that this course or the subject of this course entails. Now, if we had to define organizational development, and this is a good, I guess, platform to begin with, we can say that organization development is a system-wide application and transfer of behavioral science knowledge to the plan development, improvement, and reinforcement of the strategies, structures, and processes that lead to organization effectiveness. Now, again, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, when you take a look at courses like this, you're taking a look at the vast array of behavioral sciences. And again, we can include sociology, we can include anthropology, we can include psychology, sociology, political science. There's no end to the amount of contributions that these disciplines can make towards our study. And this will kind of expose you to those different lines of reasoning and thought that go into it. But here is where you want to apply the behavioral sciences to the organization to be able to apply and transfer it to a practical organizational setting so that you can develop, as you see here, improve and reinforce the organization's effectiveness. How are change management and organization development different? Well, development enables individuals and the organization. Now, I believe there is a difference between training and development. Training just addresses a specific task or a job that is needed for the person to be able to accomplish his or her responsibility to that organization. Development, on the other hand, deals more with a longitudinal or a long-term orientation towards that individual as he or she moves within that organization. We want to be able to utilize as much as possible that individual to the fullest, and just having them do one job is not enough. We want to be able to expand that person's abilities, knowledge, and skills so that they can become more productive within that organization. So what we're doing here is investing in the person instead of the resources that we have that maintain the plant and the property and so forth. So we see a shift in attitudes from where we're investing in the building and the material to where now we're investing in the people. We also see development as promoting values of human self-determination, potential, and growth. And again, this is a long-term investment. And this is why many times organizations have not really put forth a lot of effort and resources into developing people, because you don't necessarily have short-term results. These results occur over time. As you invest in that person, think for a minute, how long did it take for you to become the person that you are, to develop the skills that you have, the knowledge that you have, the different abilities that you have? It didn't come overnight. It took years of being nurtured and trained and encouraged for you to be where you're at right now. And it's the same concept and same application to businesses. We have to invest, and in that investment have a long-term orientation towards those individuals so that they can eventually be very productive, and the dividends of doing after you've done that are tremendous. Now, there's concerns that an organization's capability to solve its own problems and adapt to its environment has been lagging, and that's really been the case with many organizations. Think about companies today that are no longer here. Think about companies and businesses that once thrived, but they're not here any longer. Why is that? They haven't been able to make adjustments. They haven't been able to change in a way that would keep them going. There is in business what's called a life cycle. And the life cycle of a business is much like the life cycle of a person. You have a birth, a growth, a maturity, a decline, and a demise stage. And at each part of this life cycle, you have to make decisions to be able to extend out the life of your organization, just like your own body. If you make unhealthy choices, chances are your life cycle is not going to be very long. If you make healthy choices along the way, then chances are you're going to be able to stretch out that life cycle and have longevity. Well, this is what we are realizing today as a key element or a key concept, and we realize the need to develop people in order for us to be able to maintain longevity, to have people who are problem solvers within the organization, to have people who can think forward, to be able to influence change instead of being influenced by change. So these are the reasons why organizational development is so important, and also helps organizations develop knowledge to change and improve. And here we're talking about learning organizations. A learning organization is an organization that continually strives to learn. They are seeking improvement in every area. They are not satisfied with just the way things are. They want to keep going and evolving and moving towards better efficiency and effectiveness within that organization so that they can become not only the market leader, but be able to sustain that leadership position. And in order to do that, we're realizing that instead of using a person's muscle, we need to be able to use their mind and exercise that and be able to utilize that better. And learning organizations foster that. Take, for instance, Microsoft. If Microsoft just waited for something to come along, or if they just maintained the status quo, where would we be at now in the software industry? We wouldn't be very far. Are those people who make these cell phones or these computers? Think about if they were satisfied with just staying the way things used to be, which were the old antique computers and the old bricks that we used to call cell phones because they were so big and cumbersome. We wouldn't be anywhere. But think about how people have, through the years, for these companies, have improved our lives because they wouldn't just settle for the way things are. They wanted to continually improve performance and products and services. And look at where we're at today because of that. Now, how are change management and organization development different? When it comes to change management, we see that change management helps organizations implement specific changes, such as new technologies like the cell phone or the computer, or new organization structures. You know, in the past, we had what was called bureaucracies, and these were big organizations that had multiple strata of authority. People, if you wanted to talk to the boss, you had to go through layers and layers and layers of managers and supervisors and so forth. And that is a slow and cumbersome way to operate. Well, we've looked at different ways now of restructuring organizations so that they are leaner, they are quicker to respond, and there's better communication flow. And that all comes through change. Now, the values and practices are highly pragmatic and aim to make change processes effective and efficient. Again, when you take a look at decentralizing, and what I mean by that is that we have taken the many levels of authority and erased them to where now there is two-way communication that is ongoing. And the processes are more effective because of that. And it places also, as you see here in the third point, importance on how well change is implemented and at what cost and speed, not whether the organization or its members have learned. And many times you will have difficulties in change for different reasons. Uh, how receptive are people to change? If you don't have a culture of change and people who are open to change, you're going to have difficulties. And your change initiative may struggle. You will have many costs involved in it because when you change, you're learning something different. And as a result of that, you're losing money. You're not working at peak efficiency anymore because you're looking and trying out new ways of doing business, and that can be costly. And that's another reason why many organizations really would rather not invest in change at all. They would rather just stay the way it is because of the initial cost to be able to make change happen. So this is how change management and org development differ. Now, the relevance of organizational development. Now, OD helps organizations create effective responses and change capabilities in uncertain and changing conditions. Effective means you get the job done, plain and simple. And in order to do that, you have to be good at markets. Several things have really changed the way we've done business over the past several decades. And you see those here, globalization. You have a global market now. It used to be, prior to technology, which is the second point, you had a restricted marketplace. You might could order from a catalog through the mail certain things outside your geographic region, but for the most part, you were stuck with pretty much what was offered in that area. Now today, because of technology and because of globalization, the world is your marketplace. And as such, companies realize that they're having to compete with global competitors. So the way that organizational development has been able to help in a global economy and with technology is to be able to really develop the people to adapt to these types of situations, these technologies, and these environments. And we see also managerial innovation through restructuring and new forms of work and organization. We're not settling for the 9-to-5 job anymore. Organizations today realize that we're going to have to get more with less done if we're going to stay alive in business. And organizational development helps that. The practice of it helps that because it makes the worker more valuable to that organization. They're no longer seen as a tool, but as a major resource for that company. And as such, they will be able to change with the trends and the environmental conditions that come along and threaten that organization. Well, as you can see, change management is a very complex endeavor, but so too is organizational development. You know, one of the things that keeps coming back to my mind is the Exodus. And that's really an example of trying to develop people and change them. You had Hebrews that had been slaves for more than 400 years. 413 years they were slaves in Egypt. And Moses was ordered to take those people out of Egypt and bring them into the land of promise. And if you remember, they had become so ingrained in their behaviors, a slave mentality, that generation wouldn't change. And as a result, God let them perish, or God made them to perish in the wilderness. Only when that new generation came up was Moses able to get them to go into the land of promise. That's some of the realities of change. Some people will perish. Their organizations will perish before they will change. So That's why it's important to develop the people to have an attitude and a habit of change. Now, we're going to be looking at some other concepts as we move over into the rest of Chapter 1. But for today, you have a good day, and we'll see you tomorrow.